today. But before we do, I did tell you that I had something really special, or someone really special, I should say, coming on today, because I am bringing on a client to share his experience. So Devyn Harak, you may have seen him already in the group because he's been very lively and posting. He recently launched his show. Okay. And he's going to tell us his experience with that and share that with you. He just recently launched, what was it? Like, I don't know, a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And I mean, his stats, the feedback that he's getting is just absolutely amazing. So I'm going to bring him on so he can share his story with us all and just his experience with it. Good morning, Sarah. I see you in the chat. Okay, so I'm going to bring in Devyn to share his experience. Super exciting. Amazing. Good morning, Devyn. I want to make sure that I can see you on the screen. Okay, I can. How are you?
I'm great. Jess, how are you doing?
So good. So good. So good to see you. All right. How are things going? I really want you to kind of share what your experience was like. So you just launched your podcast. When was it? Last week or the week before?
I think it was the first week I'd actually put out my trailer, and then last week I put out 2 episodes, and then the third episode came out this week.
Amazing. So, I love it. Okay. So like, tell us, how was that? How was that for you? Maybe, yeah, how do you want to start? Because I know you want to share some of your amazing analytics that you've been having, which is like so incredible. But I'd also love to get into a little bit of like, how was it for you? Because I know in speaking, you know, I feel like sometimes we can launch a podcast and we're all so excited, and we were so excited, right? But you've already kind of experienced some of the things that we actually do face when creating content on a podcast. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about that too.
Yeah, I'd love to. And I would just say too, right at the very beginning, like the intrinsic motivation was so important because, I had a couple different reasons why I wanted to start this podcast. Initially, it was supposed to be a co-hosted one with one of my close friends. And it was just so funny because like we talked through it and we realized that yes, it would be fantastic to do it, but when you're kind of leaning on someone else and it doesn't work out that way, like I actually had initially wanted to do this years ago. And then I joined your program, and then my set date to start this thing was in January. And then after talking with you, just like, well, can you do it on your own? And then we were able to really figure out what it would be for me. And so my intrinsic motivation was to really share my story, and to kind of give people those tidbits of information as you've done so, frequently over the years as well. And so, yeah, with that, of course, after investing into the program, there was so many things, even getting clear on the pillars. It was interesting because again, they come so naturally. It's like, yeah, I like mindset, I like empowerment, I like fitness, I like business. Heck, I even like a bit of gaming for those that listen to the trailer. So there's just so much that I know I can talk about. But then when you actually get into like mapping them out, it's just so interesting because there's so many things that come up. And to your point, it's just like, well, I want to talk about these things, but then I start getting these thoughts of like, well, what if this doesn't align with my people? What if I don't say the right thing? What if I start losing people from it? And so it really is just invaluable to, have that like you and the community to just like bounce ideas off of, because yeah, I'll be honest, it's very easy to create the flow and even create the ideas of what you want to talk about. But when those thoughts come in, as you're working through it, as you're literally recording, it's some of the challenges that come up. And so, like I said, your support there has been invaluable. But I would love an opportunity to share the analytics because I think a lot of people want to know what it looks like, And so I'll just go ahead here and share my screen if I may.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I just gave you permission, so you should be good. I forgot about that. Do
No
you have
problem.
permission to do it? You do. Okay.
So this is the analytics. And again, it's so interesting because with it, I didn't know how to set up the RSS feeds. Like I didn't even know what any of that stuff meant, right? But if we come to the homepage here, you can actually see that I'm up on 6 Spotify and 6 other platforms, which is unreal. It's just so exciting to be able to have that. And I'll kind of show you what the profile page looks like. Of course, the guidance with, the cover art and then the launch of it. But then you see here, like, I honestly wouldn't have imagined, to be able to have this. And sure, it's not a lot, like it's not thousands, but for me, this is a big win. For me, like I love the fact that I have 54 plays, the fact that 1,100 people have like searched for it or looked for it, like the impressions piece is just people looking for it, and 16 followers. I had nothing, nobody, no followers at all. I didn't even have a Spotify for podcasters account before starting this program, heck, before even launching this month, right? So you can kind of see, the analytics over the last 30 days. This was my first episode right here on the 6th. And that was the welcome, right? So that was it here. The next day I had 5 plays. And it's surreal because again, you teach a lot of concepts in the program, even about like promoting. Now, just imagine this for a moment here, everyone. Like these here are statistics without even being promoted. Like I haven't promoted this at all. And in the program, you talk about the reels that you can create. Now that we're building an email list, the type of email, some static posts on your stories or even on your profiles on the Instagram and the Facebook and even the YouTube. So there's just so many gems in there on how I can really promote it. But I haven't done any of it, and I've still been able to receive this kind of traction, which is so fantastic. You get into discovery again. This hasn't been promoted at all, just word of mouth, promoting it in the group and just talking about it. And I'm in 6 different countries, like it's so crazy to think that this is what happened just by taking that action, right? And so you can kind of see here there's people that are streaming now significantly on Apple on the podcast app, but everyone's normally streaming on Spotify. I'm on in these different countries, and it's just so exciting. It's just really really exciting to see this stuff. And of course you got the episode ranking, and I guess I'll just share really really quick, because I didn't even know you could do this either. When I go to availability and just this podcasters app, so you pull this up, it's so cool because it shows the different platforms that people can listen to it from. And so yeah, I just think it's been fantastic just seeing the results. And I would just say, I would say the biggest thing that I found to be invaluable from like having this and working with you, because as everyone can see here over the last little while, it's been less than 3 hours and people have been able to create their cover art. They know their description. Now with the help of you, they've created their trailers, and even now after today they're going to map out the next 4 episodes. But I would say the biggest thing that comes up, because everyone knows what they want to talk about, but when you're actually in it, there are challenges that come up. And I'll share this moment of vulnerability here, because it was a challenging thing. So everyone knows that my episodes come out every Thursday. As of right now, it's 11 a.m., but I'm anticipating bring that up earlier so people can listen to that, just as from your advice. But it was interesting because Wednesday is usually the day that I do my recordings for the solo episode. And again, I know when it comes to mindset or like even business stuff, being a business and marketing coach as it is, I have so many things that I want to talk about. And it was just so interesting because that day on Wednesday that just passed this week, I was recording, and I think I did about 30 minutes of a recording, and it was like a thing about just like mindset. And I got to the end of it and I just realized like I didn't like it at all. And so I deleted this 30-minute recording, and it was just like perfect. Like it was everything that I wanted, but for some reason it didn't align with me. And so I deleted it. And so I'm like sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, what's something else I can talk about? Right. And I have my pillars. I know the things I want to talk about. I mapped out, the weeks of what these things are supposed to be. But now in the moment, it's just like, I don't know if I really want to do that because I'm being called, or I noticed something, or I learned something new, or just, I'm just being called to do something else. And so it was just so interesting because I do another 30-minute recording, and I don't like that either. And I'm just like, wow, I've literally wasted over an hour's worth of time thinking that this was going to be so simple to just create it. Mind you, this is my, third episode, fourth on the list, because I have my trailer, the welcome, and then the 3 episodes, right? But it was so interesting because again, I never thought, you don't think about that. You don't think about the blocks, you don't think about the challenges, you don't think about like what happens when you're the night before you're supposed to launch this thing and you don't align with the content that you're talking about. And I never even thought I'd face that. And then I did, and then I started getting all these thoughts like, am I not going to post tomorrow? Yeah, like what happens if I don't post? Like, is this going to be that ripple effect? Like, then I have the pod fade that you keep talking about. I'm just like, oh my goodness, am I a statistic? My mind just races. So it's just interesting because, again, to that point, I just really want to reiterate, like, it's very easy to get these things started, but maintaining the longevity without your intrinsic why, or even without having something that you can bounce ideas off of, can be very challenging. And I almost slipped away from maintaining my consistency, but luckily, I had you to be able to bounce those ideas off of. So, yeah, I'm grateful. I'm super excited. I can't wait to now start promoting this as well, and just seeing all the exciting things that come with it. But yeah, I just really wanted to take this opportunity to express my gratitude for you.
Yeah, incredible. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I'm so excited considering that you've had this much success without actually promoting it on social media or really like sending an email or anything like that. Like this is just like the organic. And I think I also want to highlight like that there's something very important with like the titles that you're putting. And like Devyn, you're very creative and you're very good with your titles because that also helps support like the impressions that you're getting too, right? Because everybody like Spotify or other podcast platforms are kind of like a search engine now. Like people could really search keywords. And so you really want to start including those in your titles and in your show descriptions, which is something that we talk about in the program too. So I just want to like applaud you for that. And I mean, the numbers are real. Like there is the proof that when you strategically plan your episodes and really title them and put in those keywords, like you really do gain that traction. And I love your vulnerability to share that, like, oh my God, I redid it. Like, oh my, that's like an hour and a half that it took you to do like the 1.5 hour episode, right? And even to say that you may have been thinking, like, oh, like, it's so easy to think that, like, I'm just not going to share it. Like, nobody's going to notice, right? Like, you're just starting off. Like, who's going to notice? And like, this just highlights this statistic that 43% of podcasts don't make it past episode 3. Like Devyn, can you kind of see why it might be like that? So like, what was it? Like you're saying it's the intrinsic motivation and everything. And I'm feeling like it's also like having the community behind you because if you didn't post an episode and you would have came to the Just Launch call, we would have been like, what the hell, man? Like what happened? Like let's talk about it. Let's see how we can work through this. And so what was it you think that just like allowed you to be like, no, I need to put this out?
Yeah, and for those that have listened to the other maybe interviews that I've done with you, again, I'm someone that can really show up, that can get things done, that doesn't really, lose motivation, and I have a lot of discipline to get these things done. But it was so interesting that I even felt it, and I swear it was a thought. I was just like, am I gonna be a statistic? Like, am I gonna be someone, that ends this thing? And it's just, again, you don't think about it, but it's just like, again, you have your episode launching tomorrow and you haven't recorded it yet, and then you spent an hour and a half not even editing it yet, it's like it adds up very quickly, and then even missing an episode comes out really quickly. And so yeah, I think it was really the level of accountability from our community, like your mastermind, because we have such a fantastic group. We've got Sam, who's an artist business owner, and she helps people paint. We got Lisa, who's a business coach, and she not a business coach, but she's a health coach, but she's her own business owner. It's like the level of standard of people in these groups, it's just really high, right? There are other business owners, there are other people that are here to watch you win. And so because we have this winning community, and because I have you to be like, hey, like, what do I do here in this situation? And you can just like send me that voice note or just send me something that you can just like encourage me. I think it's really invaluable. And I think truthfully, if I didn't have the community or didn't have you that I can bounce ideas off of, even just a quick check-in, hey, am I crazy for doing this? And you just reassuring me like, no, it's normal, just like keep doing what you're doing. Like, it's just so invaluable because you, again, are someone that has been where I am, and now you have the results that I want. So it's like hearing that from you is different than hearing it from someone who doesn't have a podcast, right? Or doesn't understand what I'm going through. And I feel like, yeah, if I didn't have you or the community, I definitely would have maybe fizzled out. I maybe would have tried to aim, for next month, because that was my story. And I think it's important that we recognize patterns, because earlier here I suggested I actually wanted to do this last year with my buddy. And last year we are like, okay, man, we're gonna set it up, and then something came up or work happened or I had to do something over here. We just kept pushing it. And honestly, this was happening for almost a year. I've been wanting to launch this podcast, right? And so it's just so interesting that now I have launched it, but now it's still happening. It's still like, oh, well, maybe if I just push it, or maybe I just come out with it on Friday or Saturday instead. And it's just like these patterns. And so that's why I really want to put emphasis on the fact that you said, like, this isn't just a podcast. This is a way to, develop, it's your development, your personal development, because I see these patterns in some of these things that I've done, especially when it comes to this, and being able to address it, I feel good because I stayed true. You guys held me accountable, and I didn't end up a statistic, of pod fade with less than 3 episodes, which would be crazy.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all that. And like I'm super happy for you and like everything that you've done. Like I love everything that you're saying. Is there anything else that you want to share before we kind of wrap up today and continue like the final day? But I love everything that you talked about, and I think it's so good. And so anybody who is listening in the chat, if you have like any even just questions, or like how did he get through it? How did like Devyn is in this group too, and he's part of the Just Launch community. So really just like chat with us. This is kind of like what I want to create with this community, right?
Yeah. So I would say for me personally, like there's a handful of things, but like I just think for me, and I feel like a lot of people that are listening to this can relate. It's like we don't really need a step by step, but we just need some kind of path that we can follow, and creatively we'll be able to figure it out. But naturally, you will come up with, with times where it's just like I need some extra like help. I need some extra like reassurance, right? And that's what it is. And even just for an example, like you'd actually mentioned it here, but we talked about it already in terms of like when I'm podcasting. It's interesting because my natural inclination is, hey, what's up, guys? Because I do live trainings and stuff in my own Facebook group. And so I say, hey, what's up, guys? And I'm always, naturally speaking abroad to many people. And with a podcast, it is more meant to be intimate. So you're speaking to a person, you're speaking to you, and it's changing the language. And it's so interesting because when you would help me, like you listen to my episodes, which again, having a coach listen to your episodes is just so invaluable, but you listen to my episodes, you give me feedback on what I can do to improve. And that was something that you noticed, because I think from the first and the second episode is more of like general, and then it went to like you. And even on my last episode, I had a lot of people really reach out. It was friends, right? But it was still people reaching out saying this one really resonated with me. And it's something that I wouldn't have done because my natural inclination is just to be, again, speaking to the masses, right? But when you switch even just a small thing, you don't really understand in the moment how big of a ripple that could be. And even when you shared the story with Jim Quick, like you're listening to his podcast, you feel it. Like you're having a conversation with someone, you're building an intimate relationship. And most of us here that are on the call, we're all business owners, right? And so what better way to grow an audience than to really grow it in a way where it's like they genuinely are getting to hear from you. It's not this pre-rehearsed speech or a presentation that you're giving, like a live training. It is literally your own thoughts. It is you talking about the things that you want to talk about, the way that you want to talk about it, and the ums and the ahs, and just being genuine and authentic is the thing that's going to really allow you to build the authentic relationships that you want, right? So I think there's a handful of things. I think it's the intrinsic motivation. I think it's just the helpful guidance and the review of everything that I'm doing to make sure I'm on the right path. And then it's the community really holding me accountable, to making sure that I'm showing up the way that I want to show, because we all have goals, right? We all have dreams. And I think the creative community that you have is like we're all here to support each other. No one's better than each other, and watching each other grow and win and work through some of these challenges that we're all going through inevitably, and really get through it when it's exciting. So just grateful,
Mm-hmm.
grateful for
Mm-hmm.
you, grateful for the community, grateful for the opportunity to be here, and yeah, excited to see the ripples that we continue to create.
Yeah, amazing. Me too. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, it's so powerful, like the resonance, right? When you're really talking to that one person, which you are, like people really pick that up and they're like, oh, like you feel it, like you're talking to me. I get it. So thank you for sharing that. Such an important point. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your experience with us. Super excited and excited to see just like the continuation of this. So thanks for being here.
Yeah,
And we
thanks.
will chat very soon. Okay.